Hey, thank you for tuning in again for this week's Friday sales tip with me, Jason Duncan, and results through integrity. I am so grateful that you are subscribing to my YouTube channel and that you're following me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I appreciate that very much. You know, it is my mission in life to use my gifts of teaching and leadership to help you get the results you want out of life. And I want to make sure that I'm doing that by providing great content, good videos, and just powering some good things in your life. So thank you for being here. So my tip this week is this. It is the importance of the sales process, the importance of having a sales process, to be more specific. And I'm going to give this tip today by giving an illustration about an absolutely horrible experience that I had with a sales group recently. Now, I'm not going to tell you their name because it's not about debasing or defaming them, but I do want to explain in this story how terrible not having a sales process actually is. So I reached out to a company who provides home services. And again, I'm going to be very vague because I don't want them to know that I'm talking about them. And I reached out to them. Now that's really good, right? Because I am interested. I called them. And I got on got a return phone call, and they said, they asked their qualification questions on the phone. The lady had obviously a process of questions that she had to ask me to make sure that I was qualified before they sent out a salesperson into my home. And she asked all the questions, told me what I needed to provide, what data I needed to provide them so that they could get a salesperson out to talk to us about it. And by the way, this was the home service, which I may have to reveal as I go deeper into the story, is quite complicated. It's something I don't technically understand. I get it from a high level, but I don't really understand it. So she asked me for the data that she needed to get the salesperson prepared for the call. So here's what happened first, and here's where the process went all wrong. She said, well, we have a couple of appointments open over the next couple of days. Which day in the next couple of days works best? And I said, look, I'm busy the rest of this week. I'm out of town next week. I'll be happy to set the appointment for the following week. And the first mistake they made in not having a process was that they said, well, we don't set appointments that far in advance. Thank you. And she hung up. Now, wait a minute. Now, if you have a process that includes only setting appointments for the next 2 business days, then you are missing out on tons of opportunity. Now, it gets worse. So within a week or so, I got a text message from this company saying, hey, I understand that you're interested in our services. Can we, she started, or she or he, whoever it was on the text, started asking the same questions that was asked by the person on the phone a couple of weeks prior. And I responded by saying, look, I've already talked to one of your people on the phone, and I wanted to schedule the appointment, but she wouldn't schedule it because she wanted to go on her schedule and not mine. And they responded by saying, well, I'm really sorry. What day would you like to do it? And I said, I need this day at this time. Is that going to be fine? She said, yes, absolutely. We can make that happen. And I said, how long are you going to need for the appointment? She said, about an hour. So I scheduled it for an hour and a half, thinking I would be a little bit more generous than what they asked for in about an hour. And we had a dinner party to go to that night, so I didn't have any extra time. So here's what happened on the day of the appointment. They did a great job by sending out text messages to remind me that the person was on their way. And when the person got here, he texted and said, I'm here. And then when he pulled into the driveway, he proceeded to go around the house and take photographs, because again, it's a home service company. So he took photographs and did what he needed to do. And then when he came in, it continued to get worse because they didn't have a process. So he comes into the house and he greets us and has small talk perfectly. Perfect gentleman, was fine talking to us, to me and my wife both, and asked us some questions. And then I said, well, would you like to go sit down? He said, sure, let's go sit down. So we went into the kitchen, we sat down at the table, we offered him a glass of water, we got him actually a bottle of water. And here's what happened. And this is why, if you're going to be a professional salesperson who's going to be successful, you've got to have a process. You cannot, for the love of all that is good, do what this guy did. He sat down at the table and he said, well, I'm just here to answer any questions you've got about X, and that was the service that they provided. So what questions do you have? And I looked at my wife, and then I looked at him, and I'm like, we don't even know what to ask. We don't know anything about this. We kind of understand from a high level what this service does, but we don't really know. And then he proceeded to pull his iPad out and showed us a couple of videos on the iPad while he asked for information that I had already given via email to the appointment setter. She'd asked for info. I'd already emailed it in. Now he's asking for it. And I said, well, we already sent it in. He goes, yeah, well, I didn't get it. I need to see it now. Well, so I then go get the data for him, and he starts fiddling around with his pencil on the pieces of paper that I gave him while we're watching videos that we could have watched on YouTube at any time prior to this appointment, and it had really nothing to do, well, it had something to do with it, but it wasn't specifically related to his sales call with me. So the story continues. After watching the 2 videos, he then says, do you have any questions now? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I still don't know what this is. You're going to have to explain it to me. And then he starts giving very vague concepts about what this might do. And we're an hour into the most awkward sales call in a home I've ever been to in my life. An hour. And so he's punching away on his iPad, starts saying, and asking me a couple more questions. Again, hasn't explained one iota of what it is that they do. And he punches in, he says, okay, 45, 50 minutes, we'll have your proposal ready. And I looked at him and said, excuse me? He goes, yeah, the home office is working on it. They'll get it to me here in about 45, 50 minutes. I said, dude, you have 30 minutes left. And he said, what? I said, yeah, when I scheduled this appointment, I was very specific and I asked how much time you needed. They said you needed an hour. Oh my goodness, I need like 3 hours in an appointment. Okay, so again, lying to a prospect is not a good idea. If it's going to take 3 hours, you need to be honest and say it's going to take 3 hours. And I said, well, here's the thing. I'm not going to try to be rude to you, but you have to be in the car leaving the driveway in 30 minutes because we have a dinner party to get ready to go to. For the next 30 minutes, we sat there pretty much the whole time and just stared at each other. We tried to make small talk. My wife just gave up and decided to go clean the kitchen up. There was nothing to do. He told us all about his life, about his family, about his kids. This is not a sales process. And what's amazing to me is that this company is reportedly the 4th largest company in its industry in the United States. Now, I don't know how many there are. There may be only 4, which means they're in last place. But if they had a sales process, how much better would it be? So I tell that story, and I know it was a long story, but I tell that story to illustrate how terrible it is to not have a sales process. You can't just walk into your prospect's office and say, well, what questions do you have? Because they don't have questions. They don't know enough to ask questions. It is your job to educate them, to challenge their assumptions, to reframe the conversation into what it really matters, and to give them the numbers and the data and the important value and benefits of what it is that you're selling so that they can now make an informed decision. If you don't have a process, if you don't know what you're going to say first, second, third, fourth, fifth, how you're going to close, how you're going to present the information, if you don't have that, then you're wasting people's time. Please don't do that. Your Friday sales tip this week is the importance of having a sales process. If you would like to work with me as a sales coach on how to get your sales process in order, I would be happy to do that. Please reach out to me through LinkedIn or Instagram, or you can put a comment right here in the YouTube video, and I'll be happy to reach out to you, and we can schedule a time where I can look at your sales process and figure out how to make it better so that you're not like that company that wasted an hour and a half of my time on a Thursday. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week. And remember, Jesus is King.